Project number 2. We're going to be making a veg tan belt clip. I absolutely love these because you can personalize them in any way you want, or you can just leave them as they are, but they're so useful. With this line 20 snap, they can just clip onto your belt, and you can have your keys or whatever you want hanging off of them, or you can clip this to your purse. I just love these. In this project, we have a pre-cut, pre-punched piece of veg tan leather, and a bag of goodies. We have a concave anvil that'll be used for setting our snaps in conjunction with a line 20 snap setter. We have an HK clip. It's a tiger thread, a little piece of adhesive, and 2 sets of line 20 snaps. We have 2 sets of snaps because the likelihood that you might mess up when setting a snap is pretty high, and I'm going to help you try and avoid messing up, but it happens to the best of us, so there's 2 sets just in case. To start, we're going to finish the edges of our veg tan leather. To do that, we're going to grab our burnisher and our tokenol. As always with burnishing, we're going to use friction and light pressure to gloss up these edges. We're going to do it before we assemble anything because once we stitch this and add everything, it's going to be really hard to get all the edges properly, so we're just going to do it first. We'll take our tokenol, we'll pick a starting point, and I'm just going to start right up here on the curve, and I'm just going to apply a nice little layer of tokenol to about 2 or 3, a little over 3 inches of the veg tan. I'm going to grab my burnisher, and I'm going to be using this smaller cutout in the wood to run over the edge because it fits nicely in there. And just run it over using light, very light pressure and friction to gloss up that edge. As always, I'm going to flip to my tapered end and I'm going to rub this front edge of the leather and the back edge. So I'm happy with the shine. I'm going to move downward. Add tokenol. And repeat that. once we've glossed up our edges off the way, we're ready to start assembling it. The stitch that we're going to do on this project is a simple 1 needle stitch. So we're going to grab our black Ritza tiger thread and one of our John James saddle needles. We're going to unwind our thread. And just like in our first project, we're just going to press between thumb and forefinger. And then we're going to guide the thread through the eye of the needle. We're going to make the tail long enough to where it's not going to allow the thread to just pull through the needle and stay firm. Now with the rough side of our leather facing up, we're going to grab our HK clip. We're going to slide it onto the leather and then fold the leather to where our pre-punched holes line up and we can see through them. Depending on your preference, you can make the opening on your HK clip face to the right or the left. My preference is to have it, if it were hanging on my belt, facing towards the right, because then I can easily press in with my thumb and take off my keys. But if you like it facing the other way, just turn over your HK clip. Now that I have it placed where I want, I'm just going to let it open up, and I'm going to grab this little piece of adhesive. I'm going to take my scratch awl and use it to help me separate a layer of the backer from my double-sided adhesive tape. I'm going to take that, I'm going to place it right below the pre-punched holes. Fold up. We haven't removed the backer yet. I'm just going to fold up and make sure that I'm aligned properly. Remove the backer, and then this adhesive is just going to make sure that everything kind of stays still while we get our stitches in. Since we're doing a single needle stitch, we're actually going to start on the inside of the clip, and we're going to start the second hole from the right. So we're going to go in through the rough side of the leather, out through the finished side, and then we're going to pull until we leave a couple inches of thread, because we're going to need enough to tie it off when we're done. But we're going to come back through the back side of the clip on the finished side, through the next hole, and we're going to go through its aligning hole, and we're going to keep a little grip on the length of thread we had saved for tying it off, and we're going to guide it up to a line. And it should want to fall pretty perfectly. We'll line it up, pull firm, and then we can go through both holes easily. Through that last hole, pull firm. Since we're working on the back side now, we're going to go through both holes. Careful not to poke through the thread because that will weaken its strength. We want to come right next to the threads that we'd already threaded through those pre-punched holes. We're going to pull firm, and we're going to work our way back, going in one side, out the other. Again, being careful not to poke through, which ends up cutting parts of our thread. We're going to come work our way back. And before we go through this very last hole, we're just going to pull firm. And on the back side, we have 3 solid stitches. On the front, we have 2 and a weird thread poking out. We're going to go through 1 layer of leather and out through the center. And this way, we don't have any visible knots on the outside. It's all on the inside. So now we're going to pull firm, make sure our stitches are tight and even. I'm going to cut off the excess thread, and then we're going to tie this off. Just going to double knot it, pull firm, and then close to the knot. Just going to snip my threads. And here's where we should be so far. Now we're going to grab the concave anvil, the line 20 snap setter, and our line 20 snaps. I'm going to open them up. And inside of here, there should be 8 pieces. There's a rounded cap. So these are the same, so I'm going to make 2 separate sets. There is the back of the rounded cap. There's a flat-backed post and the backer to that one. So these 4 pieces make up one set of snaps. So I'm going to set aside one of the sets because those might not be needed. We're going to work with these. So they go together. They have the rounded cap with a post. This bowl-shaped one with the gold ring on the inside gets set on top of it with a layer of leather in between. And the setter is going to curl this post downward and keep it firm. So these 2 are one set. This flat post pairs with this flat-backed piece, and it goes on top of it like so, obviously with a layer of leather in between. And again, the line 20 snap setter curls this post downward, holding everything securely in place. Now, since this piece of leather is going to curve downward to overlap, we want to make sure that we place the hardware in the right spots on our project. This rounded cap is going to be the front visual piece, so I want to make sure that we put it where it goes. So we're going through the finished side, out the rough side. Then we're going to take its back with the gold ring, and we're just going to place it on the post. We're just going to set it to the side for 1 minute. This concave anvil allows, as we hit the post with our setter, it allows the rounded portion of the cap to stay rounded. If we tried to do this on a flat surface, like we will with the flat post, it would end up flattening out our cap and it would look terrible. So we're going to make sure that we set it on this anvil. To set the snaps, we're going to use this snap setter. And obviously we're going to do this one, but for example, we're going to rest the rounded portion inside the concave anvil. So the anvil is going to protect the roundness of the snap. We're going to take this snap setter and we're going to place it directly in the middle of the post. And the shape of this setter is going to round out this post and curl it downward and hold the 2 pieces together. Now we want to make sure as we are setting it that we hold it straight up and down. If we do it to the side, we're just going to smash the post and your snap's going to be ruined and you're going to have to cut it out, pluck it out. It's a nuisance. The best way to set these is straight up and down with firm pressure. This is when you're going to need to find a hammer, a mallet, a maul. I'm going to use a polymer maul because that's my preference. You can absolutely use a lightweight metal hammer. Over time, using anything aside from a polymer maul will eventually deform and potentially damage your snap setter. So you don't want to use a metal hammer forever. It won't hurt it the first few times, but ultimately metal on metal causes damage. Metal on polymer only dents up the polymer mall. And I use this one pretty much every day and it's still holding strong. So metal on metal eventually will damage your snap setter. So I'm really going to carefully place the rounded portion of my snap in the center of my anvil. I kind of just let it rest where it wants to naturally inside of that bowl or concave portion. Now I'm going to take the snap setter and place it directly on top of the post. It rests pretty firmly. Now I like to use my pinky and my ring finger on my non-dominant hand to firmly press down the back of the snap to the leather. And then I take my index finger and thumb and hold the snap setter. My middle finger's just off doing its own thing. Now, this hand formation is kind of hard to explain, but for a side view, this is how I'm holding it. I'm holding down the pieces of the snap firmly together with my left ring finger and left pinky. And I'm holding the snap setter with my left index finger and my left thumb. I might take a few tries to get that odd grip on it. After doing leatherwork for years and getting so frustrated by snaps deforming as I hit them, I came up with holding it this way, and so while it seems weird, it is super effective, and it's actually allowed me to not have issues with snaps. That's why I'm showing you the weird way that I hold it, even though it seems funky. So we have it centered on our anvil. We're going to center our snap setter on our snap. Pinky and ring finger are going to press down on the two layers of snap, holding them together, and then I'm going to hold my snap setter with these two fingers. I'm going to try and keep it as straight up and down as possible, hold firm, take a hammer, and give it a few whacks. Now at this point, it's not fully set, but when you're setting snaps, since we were holding it dead center, the snap is still very loose and it's not secured, but it's secured enough to where it's not going to fall off. It hasn't sandwiched sideways, which is what happens if you don't hold your snap setter perfectly straight up and down. If you angle it to the right, you're going to smush this over to the left. So we're dead centered. It's great, wonderful, but there's obviously some spin. And this spin is how I test to see if my snap is secure or not. So obviously it's spinning because it's not fully set yet. But we're going to repeat this process. Hold firm, give it a whack, test it, see if it still spins. If it spins at all, you need to hit it more. Once it stops spinning, it is fully set. No longer spinning, perfect. Now we're going to work on this portion. We're going to take the flat post and we're going to put it through the rough side, out through the finished side. We're going to take the flat back to that and set it on. Now, we're not going to use the anvil to set this portion. We're just going to use a flat, solid surface. Exactly how I had set that front one. I'm going to take my fingers, hold firm on the hardware, keeping it exactly where I want it to be, grip my snap setter, and hammer it down. I'm going to give it a little twist test. It's firm, but I'm going to hit it again, just because some of the post didn't curl all the way, so I'm going to place my setter on the portion that didn't curl all the way, and hit it down. Now we should be able to snap together, have solid and secure closure, and we have made a veg tan belt clip. If you didn't end up using your second set of snaps, I would recommend throwing them in one of the little baggies because they do come in handy. And there we have it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this project as much as I did.